drifted alarmingly in the betting was, Felsted in the morning continued to drift. It was late on the exchanges to lose. It was something you'd see in a Dick Francis novel, Charles Burns.
The ground is soft. It's
heavy.
It's soft on times.
It's heavy.
Okay.
And a big bonfire warm welcome to the Bar Stewards Inquiry Sunday sermon, where my two usual cohorts and partners in crime are here to discuss the week's topics, the weekend's racing, and boy, have we got a show for you. We've got Newmarket gossip, we've got all sorts. I can't wait to get into this show. John Lang and Chris Lone Malvo, good evening.
Good evening.
Yes. So we'll start straight away then. Obviously, we've had an enormous weekend's racing with the Yeehaw action for 2 days and some random twig hopper action. Where should we start, John? And I'll say where we'll start before we'll do the Breeders' Cup last. We'll start at Down Royal, where I think we both witnessed a bit of genius riding from a certain sports personality of the year, Rachel Blackmore.
Yeah, she's bloody good, isn't she?
I mean, the ride on Envoy Allen, I can't put into context on how good I thought it was. In he not jumped with much fluency. He didn't, and I thought, in running layers probably had a mare really, because he didn't look likely that he was going to go through it. He started to hang left, as they jumped the second last, and he's always going left, and I think the skill she showed, the whip to correct him, and everything else, that was a top rank ride if ever I've seen one. There's a lot of jockeys that possibly would have let the horse get the better of them, and I think in Rachel Blackmore, I think we're seeing we haven't got it in the flat yet in terms of a female jockey that is absolutely top rank as a flat jockey, including Olidor. She's not top rank. She's a good jockey, but she's not top rank. But Rachel Blackmore, John, has to be up there with the real good jocks, that's ever been for me in National.
Probably put her in the top half dozen we've seen, to be honest.
Yeah, he literally is that good. Any national judge will know. They'll watch that ride. They'll know how good that was, because I think this is a horse, by the way, Envoy Allen, that is possibly either going to need headgear, or I think he might be just getting a tad bored. Do you think?
I think he maybe lacks a bit of confidence over fences myself.
It'd be interesting, because
I think he's open to improvement, and if she keeps riding him like that, chances are he'll improve. I don't think he's the calibre of the Gold Cup winner. No. I mean, look, whilst he's unexposed at 3 miles and stuff, there's I don't see him as a stamina later. I just don't. I just don't think that's where his future lies. But I mean, bearing in mind, you got to put into context of the race. BFG will be absolutely disappointed with Galvin. That was a real disappointing effort from Galvin. I think they expected that to win. I think he likes this Down Royal team, does Gordon, and I think they'll be absolutely distraught with that. And after all, Envoy Allen sort of half trying to lug left and half trying to resent it, beating Kenboy a length and 3/4. This isn't form to get excited about, is it? Because Kenboy can fucking stint as can't he? I mean,
yeah,
he's not a great yardstick. Yeah.
No, Kenboy has had better days. That's where we'll probably leave it at that. But it was more the ride. I think that was high class skill from our darling Rachel. Is that Scottish?
Pakistani Norwegian, I think.
You've got to go up an octave. You're like, Darren Rachel.
I know we have Fry fanboys listening to this show, and I can honestly say Fry's Irish accents are outstanding. I love listening to her when she goes into a JP McManus speeches. But yeah, we need to get her back on more, definitely.
Okay, so that's down rail covered. That's us done on that one. We'll go to the Badger beer. And I got excited when I saw the big fat Shire horses, John. I was like,
yeah, that was wonderful, wasn't it?
I love that. What absolutely magnificent beasts they were when they were parading down the track. It was such a spectacle that I enjoy things like that. You know, old fashioned stuff, big old fashioned Shire horses, a great sight.
Nobody withdrew them out of the ground. That was the best thing.
Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of complaining about Wincanton on Saturday in terms of the ground, saying it was like ludicrously quick. We interviewed David Menuisier late last week. That pod will be available on Tuesday, and he made a point, John, about horses. That's why sometimes you get slow times as well on quick ground, because horses won't let themselves down. So even though the times weren't rattling, it was a case of, you know, was it too quick? But I mean, all right, we'll come to the Badger beer then. So Frodon, Brian A. It's kind of, I think it's
better to be lucky than clever, isn't it?
It's thing is, it's spoiling it for me because you know, Brian A. and Frodon is a great story, but I can't watch the coverage because it is so like nauseating. I just can't do it.
Yes.
It's
cringy, isn't it? Oh,
yeah. It's like they've kind of made a rod for their own back with Bryony and, you know, certain things. You know, if Bryony rides a double or on a normal national Saturday, they're absolutely bound to, oh, Bryony Frost. You know, it's
they've turned it into national velvet on acid, haven't they?
Yeah, I mean, we know ITV love a story and everything else, and, you know, I mean, that's something we'll get onto on Breeders' Cup coverage, but I couldn't watch it. So and that's sad because Bryony Frost gave that horse a fantastic ride and did, you know, absolutely. But bearing in mind that, you know, I've heard some pundits call it an absolutely astonishing weight carrying performance. I mean, what a load of bollocks. Remember, we go back in the day when Desert Orchid used to give like 4 stone to anything, you know, and because obviously running handicaps compared to running in graded races is a lot easier. You know, you can run a little bit slower throughout the race because you get that luxury because they're not as fast. You'll get another breather in an handicap. So weight then becomes a bit less relevant. But nobody mentions that. And, you know, I mean, Desert Orchid used to give lumps. I mean, when they used to do Tingle Creek, John, as a limited handicap.
Yeah, you know, I mean, astonishing weight carrying performance. The bloody horses come down from 169 to 158.
Yeah, very well in.
Basically, on the basis of being stuffed in a couple of races he had no chance in anyway. He'd had a wind up. There was plenty of reason to fancy him yesterday.
Well, everyone did, didn't they?
It wasn't completely up against it, you know. I mean, people were saying, you know, this should be a 5-1 poke.
No.
And at the end of the day, I think if Pumpkin's other one had stood up, I think that debated.
Yeah, he was. Enrillo was absolutely jump at that point before he did fell heavily. He was jumping and travelling. He was really short on the exchanges at the point he came down. So it's media that don't, right, the racing media need to step back a bit. You know, maybe before they go on the mic saying what a performance and so, just analyse it properly and then come to conclusions. Because whilst it was a great ride and everything else, to me it was probably an unsatisfactory race with Enrillo crashing out, like you say.
Yeah.
That was the favourite at the time.
And as regards the story angle, the unpalatable reality is that punters, as opposed to people who watch racing, actually don't give a shit about the story. Maybe it's just me, but I couldn't give a fuck. I really couldn't. Well, I couldn't care less the backstory. I'm not interested. If I want a backstory, I read a novel. You know, that's the thing.
It is. I mean, look, to be honest, I don't mind stories that are interesting, but ITV racing seemed to be on a pathway that creates a story out of anything and everything every day. You know,
yeah, it's like Britain's Got Talent, isn't it? My granny died on a
piano music comes
win
on.
It for me, win it for me. You know, all that old shit. You know, it's that kind of sort of Saturday tea time coverage, which sort of, you know, sort of panders to these sort of mouth-breathing masses. I'm not interested in the story, but I do want the analysis, and I do want better coverage. And I suspect that's the case for a lot of people.
Well, I might as well come on to it now, but the beauty of Saturday, with ITV having it, Racing TV having it, At the Races having it, and the beauty was you could compare the coverage because they're all covering it simultaneously, which we never get, obviously, because it's either Racing TV with split screens competing with ITV, or it's that. So for once we had a full set of coverage from 3 different outlets, and wow, have NBC like blitzed everyone else out of the water. Yes, they still had the stories, I get that, but they also focused a lot on betting and a lot of like statistical analysis that Big Mac used to give, and and stuff like that on certain horses, and it was a lot more interesting to listen to NBC than any of the British channels, even though Americans don't totally get it right either, in my view, but it was better.
Oh, definitely. I'd agree with that. That was where the bloke in the shirt and tie with his sleeves rolled up, wasn't it? They were going to win for some stats before each race.
Basically, like pushing betting, in other words. That was...
I noticed the lasses on there as well. I mean, they don't get sort of shoehorned into talking about the fashions and things, don't they, on the ITV?
Yeah.
Whereas the lasses on there will have a hard opinion and stick with it. They're encouraged to give opinions and go into detail, and show the knowledge. Whereas our lot, I think the way the coverage is framed is a bit misogynistic, really. They're sort of looking for eye candy rather than lasses that know what they're talking about. I mean, obviously I'm referring to ITV. Because you couldn't get anybody much better than Lydia on Racing TV. That's a different ballgame altogether. But the ITV stuff, Alice always gets the story, doesn't she? I'm not saying she's probably maybe got the deep knowledge to display, but we should have somebody on there that has if she hasn't.
Yeah, it really is getting a little bit tiresome, I think, our terrestrial coverage. I think there's a lot of employed people on all channels. I'm not just going to single out ITV, but all the channels that offer absolutely zero, and I mean zero. You know when they're gonna, what they're gonna say. That everything that wins is a fantastic performance. There's no critical output. There's no deep think into why something might have happened, or it literally is utter crap. For years this has happened, and I don't know why. I don't know why we're not seeking out a better coverage for the sport. And NBC, I think, showed up Racing TV and at the races and ITV coverage as...
Yeah, I mean, irrespectively of whether they're any good or not, the Americans acknowledge that betting is an integral part of the sport. Whether what they said was right or wrong doesn't matter, but they weren't trying to sideline it, marginalise it, or otherwise, say it doesn't exist. And that was the key difference for me.
Gambling was not a dirty word.
Jerry Bates got more palatable now he's not riding.
Yeah. Didn't you like him when he was riding, John?
Uber cunt.
Yeah. No, so anyway, I enjoyed NBC's coverage. We'll just look at the November handicap before we come on to the Breeders' Cup. It was a good finish, and the winner was positively mentioned. You mentioned the winner, Andy Richmond mentioned the winner, Metier, John. That was well bet in the end.
The thing that put me off, to be honest, was Safi. I thought he might have bossed her, but she's run a pretty good race, to be fair.
Yeah, she has. Obviously, I was wrong with Isra. That was disappointing in the end. The Irish gamble nearly came off, but they've probably given it too much to do.
Yeah, one of the best of heads, I didn't think, because they didn't seem to go that quick. In response to Nick Davis' assertion on Friday night, in fact, he probably was drunk.
Indeed. Right, so there's not really much to say about the final Donny meeting, which the only other thing we'll say is fast response. If you listen to Friday's pods, myself and John gave this a real top mention. Red Car
on the 1st of October off a mark of 85. I had a large bet. Ryan Sexton on, the good kid that everyone raves about, taking 5 off. Everything looked good. Got beat fair and square though, absolutely fair and square. Since then, it's won off 85, 88, and now it's won a listed race.
It's pretty much the story of our season, isn't it?
It is, and obviously the Sefton was the ultimate kick in the proverbials. Obviously Al Dancer,
wasn't it?
Yeah, Al Dancer's good for Di Walters. That obviously.
TV, good story.
Yeah, Di Walters obviously struggling with the helicopter crash. So best wishes to him.
We sat there taking cheese graters to our scrotums.
Yeah, but we weren't thinking like that crossing the line because we've the morals of Ali. We've the morals of Ali.
Oh, yeah, morals of the farmyard, as a judge once said to some defendant who they weighed off for some horrendous. You have the morals of the farmyard.
Isn't that betting to a degree though? Because everyone's got to be like that. Because literally you're following your investment round or whatever it is. And I had a good perk on this, real good perk, and you think, like you said, crossing the line, you just think the world's against you. You're not thinking about Di Walters, are you?
For me, it was that wanker rich, Howard, and then they go past the line. Now I'm thinking, fucking Di Walters. How many winners does he need, that bastard?
Precisely.
Then he comes on the telly in intensive care. You twat.
Yeah, he's one of them, isn't it? The problem is in the social media world now. If you tweet what you actually think, you'd be banned. I mean, it's and that goes for the same for most people. I mean, if you've had a good financial investment, it literally is the be all and end all. It's your world. You own that horse that you've bet. That's how it feels, doesn't it? If you've had a good
Mark, yeah, exactly. Mark Coton said the betting shop is the stock exchange for the working class, and I think that's a very, very nice way of putting it. For people who have no say or power in other parts of their lives, this is one forum where you can be rewarded instantly for getting something right in life. And for most people, you go to work, etc., your opinions and views and actions don't have a lot of impact. But when you have a bet, straight away you're rewarded or otherwise for your opinion. And that's why you have such an emotional investment in it. And all these people on Twitter saying, stop money, you lost your 50p. Doesn't matter whether you had 50p, 5p or 500 grand. Your opinion's worthwhile because you've had the nuts to have a bet. All these people who sit on the bylines moaning, have a bet. If you haven't had a bet, I'm not interested in your opinion, because you haven't made an investment. So, I never have any sympathy when people say, oh, well, it's only 50p, so what?
No, it is, like that. That's the fun of the sport. And obviously that's something that, everyone goes through in a race. You're cheering your horse on, and that's how it is. So if to some people it sounds insensitive regarding Di Walters, get fucked. Anyway, on to the... This is terrible. We're going to hell.
This will be a 5-minute show after all the editing, won't it? Be hello and goodbye. Disgraceful souls. Anyway, on to the Breeders' Cup. I'm sort of not bothered about doing Friday, really. Friday, yeah, it happened, but we'll go to Saturday's card, so we can just do it at more length. It was interesting night, to say the least. I was shocked at the kind of wind they got. They were getting like gale force winds into the faces down the back straight at one point during the night. It was averaging at about 28 miles an hour, but it was still some kind of amazing wind. We'll go to the I like them big ass fans, John. Big ass fans. That's me and you, isn't it? Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. Cody's Wish won the race, and that was the story. The young lad that had, basically got to this from Make-A-Wish, and he got to visit Godolphin, and as a foal, and all the foals were running around, and apparently this one foal took an interest in young Cody, and that was it. And
That's the horse he wanted, and they actually named it Cody's Wish, which I think is quite good for Godolphin, really. Bearing in mind they chain them to chain the family to radiators and things like that.
Allegedly.
Well, we haven't heard from her. Anyway.
Means nothing.
So the Big Ass Fans Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, Cody's Wish made everyone well up on Twitter. Everyone was welling up. As Chris has just pointed out, if he was on Cyberknife, he wouldn't be welling up.
I'll be welling up. Well,
it would be welling up. But...
Yeah.
No, it was a nice story, all joking aside, but I'm not sure how nice it would have been had I been touched off. But I'm unfortunately that's how punters think, and it's not very nice. But that's my honest kind of what's the word? My honest reaction. If I'd bet the second, I don't think I'd have been terribly keen on the story and the post race coverage. But that's human beings for you, isn't it?
Well, let's be right. There'll be someone somewhere, and I didn't check the tweets. There'll be someone somewhere that, like, if they've backed Cyberknife. And this is a typical Twitter post. They'll say something like, "Florian Giroux, you bent bastard."
Yeah, fucking.
You've cost me. That. You should never ride again. It seems. We get that on most UK races, but anyway, I didn't check Twitter to see what it was saying. But usually, if you get beat in a photo finish, there's usually somebody that's like. Effing and Jeffing.
Me, mainly, yeah, me.
Okay, so that's the story out of the way. Coming on to the Maker's Mark. Now, that's more like it than big ass fans, big fat ass fans. Maker's Mark, a bourbon whiskey sponsor of the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf, by which this was a popular winner in Mr. Icy's ranks, as he tipped this on his timeline to do the business. He said this was the bet of the night. John, you gave it a favourable mention on Friday's show, didn't you? Tuesday.
Yeah, I fancied it because she got a verdict over Nashwire anyway, and I thought her mile form was superior to anything in the race, really. So I thought, well, she's got to have a decent chance. I didn't really fancy Above the Curve because. I didn't think she looked at home around Chester either, to be honest. Earlier.
No, that was the one run that kind of I agree. And Mr. Icy made that point, and two of our colleagues, Jack and Nick, tips Above the Curve, and were made to look wrong in a nutshell. And obviously Nashwa. I think I'm quite vindicated on that because we felt
everybody was against him.
Yeah, big drifter, and was not entitled to be that price on form. He just wasn't. It was a strange betting, really. To put, I think she was put in at like 6-4 on the tissue, and no one could really understand that. So that's not after timing, because that's probably my only good result of the night. I managed to get a real good lane at less than 2-1, so that was nice. That got me going in good spirits, and then it sort of went downhill from here. So then we move on to the Breeders' Cup Sprint. Elite Power winning the race. Jackie's Warrior now beaten in 3 Breeders' Cups, John. It's clearly not a horse for the very big occasion, is it?
One is unfortunate. 2's a bit sickening. 3 would indicate they haven't learnt the lesson.
Well, yeah, exactly. Well, that's it. Yeah, I mean, she's become the Goshen of Breeders' Cup sprints.
Oh dear.
So for odds-on backers, you knew your fate early when she wasn't that great into stride, and he just struggled to get.
It's to say the beautifully named Bill not have a winner though.
Great stuff for Belmont and Elite Power with the Judamont Power.
A result for Mott fans everywhere.
It is, yeah. You can't beat a good Mott, can you, John?
Apparently not.
Okay, the Breeders' Cup Mile won by Modern Games, and again, results like this are so annoying. Just because like everyone else seems to be on big anti-post vouchers, I'm not. 5-2.
What sort of result, wasn't it? Really, I think Kinross was the hero of the race.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again,
Yeah.
you know, like when people pat themselves on the back and say, "What a good bet, Modern Games." Bearing in mind, Modern Games had a bit of a tough trip also in that just didn't get the right position early, and you know, and I had to do it the hard way in a way. Kinross's trip, John, that was worse, wasn't it?
Well, it was horrific for him, really. I mean, he started with the draw, and then he gets clouted leaving the stalls. You know, rear on him early on, he's no place to be in the Breeders' Cup now, simple as that.
Yeah.
And, I mean, for me, he's the best horse in the race, and you can forget him needing soft ground.
Yeah, I mean, I made a statement that I felt he was £10 better on with cut. Well, Keeneland's turf will probably be as firm as you'll ever race on over here. And like you said, I can't. I'm wrong. Maybe Kinross he may be slightly better on softer ground, but there's probably not much in it. I was on Ivar for what it's worth. Like I said on the show, at big prices, and I was getting really excited because he was in a great position under the jockey upgrade, and I actually felt for probably about 2 strides I might just do it, but he finished quite weakly into 4th, which disappointed me in the end because he had the run of the race. That's why I was excited. I thought this bugger's had a real good run, but that's how it is. You know, hard luck stories, like you've just said, Kinross is the unlucky horse of the evening. Definitely much the best. So you Modern Games backers, you lucky people, you've got away with it again, and you're patting yourselves on the back and booming. Go on to the distaff. Not much to say here other than that. Well, really not a lot. Really, the 3-way finished. Did you have a bet in that, John?
No, I didn't. And
I bet the third, the one on the rail.
Yeah, Clarier. I was on Clarier. Yeah.
Lovely that was. Yeah, lovely for the Wilmot. It was nice that, and good story with that race. I was delighted to have got Chinned on the line. That was lovely. Yeah. Okay, not a dry eye in the house. There wasn't.
Yeah.
Another telly goes out the window. That's 6 this week.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen so many people saying they've had a great Breeders' Cup. They're following the carrots, aren't they? I mean, the carrots really were strong with Appleby all weekend. You know, he's patently obvious. His strike rate over there is ridiculous, and to me, there's got to be some kind of, you know, like, I don't know, good feed. That's all I can say. I can't go further than that. But it's good feed out in the USA because their runners just seem to run out of the skins all the time, you know, consistently as well. It isn't just like, now and again they have good breeders. They win the 2-year-old races on Friday. Silver Knot should have won as well.
I was on that as well.
I know on Friday night. Yeah, terribly unlucky.
Post as well. I was on at 4-1 last month.
Yeah. Again, I know.
Got the value though. I've got the value. That's what I'm telling the mortgage company. I had the value, and in the long term, I'm going to win if I keep taking 4-1 about odds-on chances. Yeah. Let's see how that argument plays.
So come. Anyway, my Breeders' Cup turf again. More shit for me. Broome got hammered. So and I hadn't placed a bet on Broome, and I should have done it at big prices. Well, I shouldn't have done it. Got big, but. Obviously, it was the best backed horse in the race, right into it was like 7.88 on the machine. It was incredible gamble on Broome.
He was beat leaving the stalls, wasn't he?
Yeah, and I just watched it leave stalls and missed the break. I thought, oh, that's that.
It's a funny horse, though, isn't it? It's one of those where you kind of were hoping that it would repeat its sort of previous course, but it's just. Yeah, I think
it's one of them that puts a bloody cattle prod on it in the gate at all.
Well, it was an enormous gamble though, because you know, as IC pointed out to me on Twitter, it takes a huge amount to move horses in that market, but to get the market move that it did, must be lumps for it, but stayed in the hod.
Following me in, but I didn't have a penny on it, and that's only because of the odds collapse, and I wasn't able to avail of any value. So my pre-race bet was Stone Age, and then Sam, again another one where I'm thinking, well, this has had a nice trip, and then I'm thinking, then you're going to do it, and then out comes the carrots, and Rebels Romance just literally blips them in the closing stages. Were you surprised, John, how much Rebels Romance found or?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I didn't have this as a good race really.
No, it was.
I'll give the winner 112. I'm happy with that, to be honest, because I don't really think this is Stone Age's bag, but it's just a race where Mishriff's fucking finished, didn't he?
Yeah.
Brown never sighted with a chance and didn't make a lot of progress up the straight. I just think really the Breeders' Cup Turf is a race that needs a bit of attention, to be honest, because I think the last couple haven't been
dropped off, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Dropped off. We need. I'm surprised. I'm surprised. If for Baid, that would have been the race I would have picked for Baid to finish on.
Would have been a much better race for him than the Arc, or
yeah, like firm ground, which he's going to absolutely. He's got ludicrous foot, so it doesn't matter where you position him. It had looked impressive. He'd have got a mile and a half, no problem around there. That's not even an issue. He just quickened up, and I think that would have been a great swan song and plenty of prize money till for Sheikh Issa. So there we go. But on to the Breeders' Cup Classic, and Flightline didn't disappoint, John.
No, it looked tremendous, didn't it? That was like the big part of the night, wasn't it? I wouldn't know where you'd rate the other ones, but you couldn't fail to be impressed.
Well, right, I can have a go. And what I'm trying to say is the last run, Andrew Bayer gave the last run of Flightline 126. He's come out and gave this run as 121. You can see why. There's quite a severe headwind in the back straight. They'd gone ridiculously hard, given that premise. Imagine like stretching down back with a 28 mile an hour headwind, and they're still doing 109 and 4 for 6 furlongs over a mile and a quarter. Flightline still managed to cover the last 4 furlongs in 51 seconds, which is, he after doing that. So it is a great performance, but it didn't match the Santa Anita race where he had his own way and was able to just do his own thing, where he got a bigger figure because obviously of the circumstances. I think he had to do it the hard way. He's a very good horse. It's disappointing that he's retired. He's been officially retired in the last hour. That's the official confirmation. So we're not going to see Flightline ever again. Do we think this is off why people like jump racing better? So your smaller punters or your punters that follow sport get a bit pissed off with flat racing because they see a champion and they don't get long to see it.
He's not one that's ever going to appeal to punters, is he? Because he's going to go less than 2s on every time he runs.
No, but punters like that. I don't mean to bet. I mean as a spectacle. Like Baid put attendance up at York, and you could feel the euphoria. What he did in the International was special. It felt special. We were there, so you kind of that to me is invaluable. Secretary, look at the great.
But you were drunk though, weren't you? You were drunk. So
yes,
man selling ice creams in the car park was special, wasn't he? So you need to temper that comment with the amount of gin.
No, but look at the past, right? So you got like Secretariat that got beat a few times. Nijinsky got beat. Like lots of good horses get beat, but they kept racing back then. Now it just seems like they package it into on the flat.
There is. I think you're right. I think both you and John have made the previous comment in previous pods that there is an obsession with being unbeaten, isn't there? And you even see it in other sport like boxing. Now, boxing in a terrible state, outside the heavyweight division. You've got various classes. You've got lots of fighters that are all unbeaten. They can't get them together because A, they can't agree the money, and B, everyone's terrified of losing the 100% record. Whereas maybe years ago in boxing racing, it didn't matter that you got chinned. You'd wipe yourself down and go again. But now it's all about having a perfect record when they send these horses off to stud or whatever. So I think it's sign of the times, isn't it?
It depends on the owners as well, doesn't it? some owners, their eyes are going to light up the minute you see like a $20 million valuation as a stallion and things like that.
Yeah, me, basically. My eyes would be like saucers. 20 quid at the minute valuation. I mean, I would fucking write it down there myself for a score.
I couldn't criticise anybody that rushes one off to stud because I know I would do exactly the same thing.
But I'm not being. Yeah, I agree, John. Like we can all sit here and go, no, we'd race on, and then it
bollocks.
And then it breaks its leg, and
absolutely.
I mean, there's been loads of examples, isn't there, where sort of sporting owners have turned down fancy offers, and then 3 or 4 runs later, they don't even get 10% of that value. So unless you're stratospherically rich, and look, and I'm sure all the owners of these Breeders' Cup winners are stratospherically rich, but it's a difficult decision to turn down or to make, isn't it?
We had a bit of a plague of this in the 80s, really. I mean, we had like Golden Fleece when that won the Derby and picked up an injury in doing so. It just didn't really make economic sense to try and bring that horse back for the Arc because all his form stacked up with, I think it was a Cert that won the French Derby, and Christ knows what else, won the Judgment by about 28 lengths as well, something like that. And basically, it was too valuable to risk bringing him back, after the injury.
Yeah.
And Sharif Dancer was another one. When that won the Irish Derby, like Callan and Tinoso, was suddenly looking at a ridiculous valuation for him to go to stud. And basically, I mean, he was going to run at York. There was absolutely nothing wrong with the ground, and the owner insisted he was taken out. That was the end of him,
And they made. I mean, it's very good points, John.
People as well,
Yeah, it's very, very good points, John. And it kind of hammers home the fact that this might be doing us all a favour, in that if flat horses raced on for another 2 or 3 years, we'd get people wearing scarves, with their colours on,
Oh, that's gruesome, isn't it? Ooh.
It's time to go up.
Right. Oh, horrendous. That's a war crime, and they should be sent to the Hague.
Yeah, Terrorism Act. Yeah, I mean, they widened the Terrorism Act for any. Poor David Icke's got the Terrorism Act. He's only said everyone. Yeah, the EU's banned him from 2 years. It's under the Terrorism Act. Well, because he said everyone's lizards and things like that. But I mean,
it's hardly an act, a declaration of sedition against the state, is it?
This is where we're at. So the fact is, if flat racing, if Bade had raced on for another 2 years, we would have probably had people turning up in blue and white scarves. And it's dreadful thought, isn't it?
Yeah.
So maybe flat racing is the key, really, to keep the scarf wearers, out of racing.
I mean, once they've done this stuff, fuck them off, and let's say what won the Gilhurst.
Yeah. Just one more point on Flightline regarding Bayer figures. Flightline received a career best of 126 for Santa Anita, 121 for Keeneland. Arrowgate ran 122. Just trying to put things into perspective of like when people say the greatest horse of all time.
Noticed on NBC that they'd gone back and given Secretariat a Bear figure for his Belmont, and that was 139.
Correct. Yes, and yes. So it's 139 for Secretariat's Belmont. It's 120 for American Pharaoh, despite the silver-haired, greasy, dirty Bob Baffert saying
genius is the phrase you're growing. I like Bob Baffert. I'm a fan. I love his hair, sunglasses. If I had, I'd look like him. Honestly, horrible. Disingenuous fucker. That'd be me.
Yeah.
Slick.
I mean, what a wanker there, right? So like he's been done for all these drug crimes, like in racing. So he comes back, and rather than just saying, well, Flightline's an amazing horse, he compares it to American Pharaoh and says, yeah, it's doing what American Pharaoh would have done at 4. I mean, have Coolmore got an interest in American Pharaoh? They have, haven't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be it then. So Coolmore have said that.
That's what I would have said.
Said that, yeah.
Same as Bob.
Yeah.
You're listening, Bob. If you post some tickets, I'd love to come out to see you.
Yeah. What a pile of shit that is. Like American Pharaoh. But that's what Bob said anyway. Good old silver fox.
It's a good strap band for tonight's show, that, isn't it? Bob Baffert, what a wanker.
No, I like him. I have no part in this traducing Bob's good name. I won't have a word said against him. I like him.
Anyway, moving on to the rest of the show where we can talk shop. Decision to abandon Sandown today due to the terrible state of the ground. That Andrew Cooper passed fit at 10:45, and he cited the reasons as being for safety reasons, but not for safety reasons for the jockey's horses. It was safety reasons that if a jockey falls or comes down, or a horse comes down on that dodgy bend, they might not be able to get the horse the horse ambulance might get stuck. John, what do we make of all this?
You can't really argue with his reasoning because it's
he's
people attention to people. That's the end of it, isn't it? You know, what you could say is Sandown have to get some remedial work done double quick. Otherwise, should they be having jump racing?
This didn't happen in yesteryear, did it? You know, we've had some bad ground.
You know, I mean, in yesteryear they were having a swig of whiskey before they went out to ride, weren't they? And it's a different sport entirely now. You know, you've got to have your risk assessments and your health and safety in place.
But they don't give a fucking island. I mean, 34 seconds slow, them races, some of them races today. In Ireland, like I said, Gowran, they've been 1 minute and 20 slow. You know, I know they moved the rail.
Were trying, to be fair. They're all non-triers. That's why a minute and a half slow. So
I mean, but you can see the difference. I mean, there's one nation that don't give an absolute toss.
No, again, you know, I mean, you had the Fred Tylicki situation. Imagine if somebody gets injured and
it is, litigation,
medical attention to them. What would Sandown be looking at in regards to lawsuit? I mean, as you know, I've no drum to beat for Andrew Cooper or anything like that, but I think once that was decided, I think his hands were tied and there's nothing he could do about it, really.
I totally agree. I thought his comments were, whether they were true to point, I don't know. Do we know whether a car would get through that? I don't know. Does anyone know? I don't know. Have they tried it? Did they have a practice run? Just that, you know.
You wouldn't want to be the jockey that gets buried and has to find out, would you?
Well, no, but that's what I'm saying. Did they send a car down to try and go through it? You know, or whatever, you know, just to see.
That's why.
Well, if it did, then that's fair enough. But if they didn't, and they're just using that as well, what happens and it gets stuck? I mean, but if they sent a car down to see if it's all right, I don't know. Anyway,
they should have abandoned it before the second race. Personally, I wish we should have abandoned it.
Absolutely. I'm the same reason. Jeep maker Gavin Sheehan, gutless, right?
Oh, that was rotten, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I don't think my reason. I don't think non-Jeep. I just think he just didn't have. Yeah, gutless. It was sort of a. Yeah, it was a fairly kind of neutral sort of ride, wasn't it? It was quite odd, but I've seen him do that before, and you know, it's not that we kind of don't know it, but you know, before anyone says, well, how many winners have you ridden at sort of, you know, 30 mile an hour? I get all that, but it just didn't. He just really didn't take a cut of those fences, did he? For me, anyway.
Well, Fry's right in terms of jockeys that National Hunt, it makes a lot more difference, and you need to look at your jockeys more than what you do on the flat, because flat you've just got to run, you know, you've just got to try and get a clean passage, and that's all you got to do.
Great.
Jump racing, you got to present them at fences, hurdles. I don't think Gavin Sheehan's anywhere near the top brigade personally. It is what it is.
I agree.
But anyway, so yeah, we couldn't argue. I agree with John. We can't argue with Andrew Cooper's decision because it brings in litigation circumstances, and that's where you have to stop in this modern day and age, whether you think it's right or not. Kevin Stott, John, on the internet this week caused a stir. Well, it wasn't Kevin Stott that caused a stir. It was Neil Callan that criticised Kevin Stott's comments. And this was about Megan Nichols, Stott's girlfriend, is now his agent, and he's split from Kevin Ryan, and he's getting some nice outside rides, etc., etc.
he's improving. His strike rate's good. But Kevin Stott then did an interview, and his comments were sort of read badly by Twitter, especially because he was sort of disrespecting his previous sort of like trainers that are giving rides, saying, well, you're just getting crap rides up north and you don't get noticed and something like that. It wasn't very complimentary, was it?
I thought they were awful comments, considering the support he's had from the likes of Kevin Ryan. Absolutely appalling, but, I mean, what do you expect? I mean, he's probably had in his lug all summer saying, listen now, Kev, don't think you're sitting on that settee all winter, just watch your telly.
Yeah. Them bins need taking out.
Job. Yeah. You should be waiting for Godolphin, you.
Yeah, and put up them shelves, take those fucking bins out and that grass won't cut itself.
Don't think I'm living up here forever in the back of beyond.
It was remarkable, though, that they actually Callan actually said that, because it's very unusual. You get jockeys sort of criticising their peers openly,
yes.
And that was remarkable. So by my reading of that, you can probably amp that up by a factor of 10. That's obviously a really seismic sort of comments by Megan Nichols and Scott for somebody, a senior member of the Wayne, to come out and actually say something. So there must be a hell of a lot more behind that. So that there must be a lot of bad feeling. That was quite remarkable. But I agree with John. I thought it was a bit kind of churlish. He had a lot of support from Kevin Ryan. But bear in mind, Kevin Ryan isn't a sort of a permit trainer. He's a major force.
He's trained Group 1 winners.
Yeah,
and he's a fucking lovely fella as well.
Yeah, and he tipped me a winner one year at Royal Ascot. Quick story.
But
I was there with somebody. He did. He said he came over to the table and said, "Can I have this chair? Is anyone sitting there?" And I said, "Only if you tell us the winner." And I can't remember what year it was. He said, "Mine will go very close to the next." He said, "I'd be amazed if it's out the first three." I think it was about 12-1 shot, and I was so drunk I forgot, and it won. And he said, as I walked out, head in hands meme, he said, "Did you back it?" So I gave him a weak thumbs up. Oh yeah, thanks. So yeah, he was a nice guy.
No, thing for me, is it because Megan wants to go and live back down south? Has she had enough of the north, Chris?
Quite, well, I've only been half a dozen times and just can't wait to get back. Anyway, it's horrendous. Fucking awful people. No plumbing or sanitation. Honestly,
outside toilets. Toilets.
Yeah, always trouble at meal, but no one knows what kind of trouble. It's dreadful.
Like pigs up here, Chris.
Yeah, they have mangles instead of like washer dryers. It's awful up there. It's just dire.
Yeah. The producers told you to fuck off, Chris.
She wouldn't be the first woman that's told me that. So I've got a very, very long queue. But possibly, I think there's something in that. I mean, I think maybe, and of course, she's a very sort of assertive woman, isn't she, Megan Nichols? She's very, she's obviously trying to advance her media career and sort of bloodstock. So I don't think she's a shrinking violet, but I thought it was badly handled. I thought it came across as quite crass, actually. What's the word I'm looking for? It was ungracious, what Kevin Stott said.
I don't think it's the cleverest thing to say, unless he's got a job offer on the table, to be honest.
Well, tactically it might be foolish, but I think all he needed to have said was, many thanks to Kevin Ryan, immense support, blah, 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 all that kind of, whether he means it or not, it's irrelevant, but I thought it was handled very badly. And for somebody to break ranks like, Neil Callan and say, this is not good, that must be seismic. That must have caused a huge amount of ill feeling, I think.
Yeah, and Neil Callan celebrated by riding a horse a lap too early at Kempton.
Quite, yeah. That's another story, isn't it?
Anyway, a special mention to Gay Kelleway, who friend of the show, has done 2 podcast interviews with us, and is a delightful person. And can I just praise her on her efforts with the horses out in Ukraine, where she's ferrying supplies to horses out there. It's sterling work Gay's doing. So if any of our listeners can just spend a minute or two, maybe go on a timeline on Twitter, support what she has to do, it's a nice story. Gay's a really good person.
And what's remarkable about it, Lee, as well, the fact that she has not sort of publicised herself as several people would have done. Look at me, I'm doing this. It's done quietly. It's done for good reasons. So fair play. She hasn't gone out and said, "Look at me, I'm doing this amazing stuff. So that's definitely praiseworthy.
Right. Okay. So before we come on to the very final part of the show, where I've got a really good Newmarket story coming up, we're going to talk about an article in the Telegraph today regarding gambling companies. Again, they are causing the absolute destruction of British racing as it stands. Their greed, their absolute, Chris, some of your words have rung in my ears for some time now when you've stated
resonated.
Resonated. Sorry, you said. I know my English is not as good as yours. But you have stated that they are like they are parasites. They literally get one person and then they just move on to the next, and so on and so on. And this is
it's a kind of a Ponzi, isn't it? That was the kind of crude example.
Yeah,
let's work our way through as many monks as we can, and but ultimately, like all Ponzi's, once you run out of people signing up, the whole house of cards collapses. But everything they do just reinforces that view. And I know we have bookmaker followers and say, look, it's not as bad as you paint it, but there's nothing positive that I see that is in favour of bookmakers. Everything they seem to do is to the detriment of punters and the long-term health of the sport. So, I did see the article actually online. I did read it, and it's a really good article if people want to check that out.
Yeah, it's in the Telegraph. It's about data that's been misused, and remarkably, and probably no surprise to John, the Department for Education were totally unaware that this was even a problem. That they were giving the data of children to gambling companies, and they thought it was totally fine. What's wrong with this? So
when Gavin Williamson was in charge of education,
you'd imagine it probably would have been. And so basically what's happening is Trustopia are the company that handles the data. They were supplying them then to the bookmakers, and it includes a children's age for age verification purposes. So some people say, well, that's good, age verification purposes. No, it's not good. The data included their exam results and a few other profile stuff in there, everything. So literally, they were getting the info. So basically, if you were 18 and you were signing up to play with Ladbrokes, they wouldn't ask for your passport. They would just look on this Trustopia, which is updated daily, by the way, and they would then look at the profile. Right, he likes sports. He's shit at maths, or she's shit at maths.
Yeah, let him have as much as he wants.
Yes, yeah. I mean, if you got an A star in maths, then it's like, maybe this isn't the right sort of profile. So this is disgusting. And literally, they've been doing this for yonks, and the only reason because they've been found out, it's now no, we shouldn't be doing that, shouldn't we? But only because they've been found out. And the other thing as well, which is interesting, so they've removed 2,600 companies now from having access. That I don't know if that's just betting companies, but obviously lots of other companies. But 22,000 companies have access to children's data. This is happening right under our noses, and this is disgusting. Literally, like when you don't know. So Chris, obviously you have family, you have youngsters. So your youngsters, their data can get transferred to Entain or Flutter, and they will know your offspring's exam result.
Well, none of them have passed any exams.
Well, they'll be welcome. New accounts, Chris. New account.
That's true. Yes, I don't think there's any danger of having a squiggle against my prognosy. Honestly, it's they're remarkable by their lack of academic achievement. But the wider point, it is disgusting. We're making light of it, but that's horrendous. That's children's personal, private. What next? Medical records. Oh, that person's got a mental health issue. That's brilliant. Yeah, we'll afford them full sort of account access. Where does it end? Now, people may laugh at that. Oh, they'll never disclose that. But how do you know?
Exactly.
You don't.
It's going on now. This for me is criminal practice. It's against GDPR. John, and obviously it's no surprise to you that obviously it's a Tory government that's in charge doing this, and literally, so the chap that's doing the investigation into this, right, has decided not to fine the Department for Education. And he stated, this should not detract from how serious the errors we have highlighted. So he's basically said serious errors, right? nor how urgently they needed addressing. But we have decided that a fine is not in the best interest.
He's probably had a threatening text off Williamson. He seems he's been sending plenty around lately.
I find this. I mean, like Chris has just said, John. Do you find this worrying?
Extremely worrying. You know, I mean, profiling kids for fuck's sake. I mean.
But they painted it as an error, though, haven't they? Oh, an honest mistake. How can that be an honest mistake?
What's been done to correct the error?
Yeah, you've been caught out. It's not a mistake.
Well, it's like the party gate, isn't it? Nothing's mentioned until you're caught, and they say,
that was an error. You know, like Suella Braverman. Oh, that was an error. You know, she said sorry. Yeah, we sacked her for 6 days. Now she's back. You'll lot shut the fuck up.
Well, this is it. It's kind of, we're in a scary society where things are going off that you'll never know about ever behind the scenes, and we've been ripped off as consumers, as everywhere it's going. And we should all be worried and scared by this. It's a good article from the Telegraph. Because this
used to be the preserve of the Tin Hat Brigade, isn't it? The conspiracy theorists.
4 or
5 years laughed at. And now a lot of these so-called conspiracy theories are now being shown to be true. Now, obviously, the more outlandish ones clearly aren't. But you know, these people weren't wrong all the time. That there is a move towards kind of, you know, the government having having all your data. You know, the fact that cash is no longer welcomed. I mean, I went to see. What did I went to see? I went to see the Proclaimers last weekend, believe it or not. Yeah, I did. And the bar was cashless. So I thought, I'll get a coffee. I went with my boy. And he's like, oh, no, look to me. He said, well, I've got cash here. No, card only. And this is a small kind of provincial venue that is now saying we no longer take cash.
Yeah.
So you could argue that, well, you know, that there's operational reasons, but what's the problem with taking cash anymore? You know, so there is a move towards kind of allowing governments and central bodies to have as much information about you as possible. And I think that's wrong. And, you know, people have got to resist a bit, haven't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, 2 final things to finish this year. One's a really good Newmarket story, which I'll finish with. First one is of Jimmy Lindley, which is Snipe, trained by Dan Skelton, and ridden by British Andrews at Ludlow this week. And honestly, I'll challenge anyone to watch that ride back in the straight and tell me that she wasn't pulling that back. Right, it was ridiculous. It was so obvious that I zoomed in and I looked at her hands and I just went, oh my God, you know, you literally are just absolutely strangling this all the way down the straight. So then I watched Hexham before that for Snipe and watched the ride on the running. If you backed it, you'd say, come on, girl, come on, you can get this up. You know, I mean, it's not being like stopped out the back of the telly, but they're withholding a lot with the horse. They're riding it to withhold a lot. I think there's at least a stone to come with Snipe, and it's owned by Foxtrot Racing Club. So yeah, I think Snipe, Dan Skelton, that is really one to look out for in handicaps. I really like this horse. So that's for the Jimmy Lindley, and here's the funny story. So we've got Matt Hancock going in the jungle this week, can't we? At some point, and so I thought I'd concentrate on the Gosdens, and my Newmarket snouts come up trumps here. Thady, John, he stopped watching Tipping Point, and he's going through the stable lasses in the yard. So what?
Have you got lawyers on speed dial? Jesus.
What did producers say? Allegedly, yeah, allegedly. No. This is gospel. This. So don't start muttering, you two. This is good. So basically, there's a certain person that rides a really good horse at Gosden's. She's now been jocked off of that riding that horse at home. So you know, it's all shenanigans going off at Gosden's. And good old Thady, you know, he's walking around there like a dog with 6 nicks. You know,
It's
walking difficult with difficulty if you got 6 dicks. I think.
Yeah, well, you know,
exactly,
it's fantastic, but I mean, it just shows you what the Newmarket fraternity is all about. But you know, but this is where we're at with the Gosdens. You know, I mean the old donations, John, to the Hancock cause.
It's been a sad episode, hasn't it? Really, I mean, you think you're getting an MP and you end up getting a jungle contestant. You know, I mean, you never think you were sponsoring him to go and eat kangaroo bollocks, but there, yeah, that's where you're
I think you're right, John. You're totally right. I mean, I heard something on the radio that said that, you know, what possibly could have caused him to want to go there, and they feel because he's got so few supporters within government, he's not likely to land a prestigious job under this current administration. He's got no supporters. He's reviled. You know, he's got one eye on another career, and so, you know, I can see him leaving politics, I think, in a couple of years, because he's not well regarded. Council wouldn't maybe tell you otherwise. Yeah, he's looking for something else now because he's not going to get a big job with this new administration. So he thought, well, fuck it, let's get a few quid in the bin.
Yeah, no, agreed. So good old Slim Thady, John. He's given up tipping point, and he's giving the good old lasses there a good ramming in the yard.
Different kind of tip, right?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, fantastic. Bar Stewards exclusives. Remember, we gave you the Frankie exclusive a bit back. They was going to be riding in California in the winter. We're right again because the Racing Post reported it this week. So there you go. If you want exclusive, come to the Bar Stewards. It's good listening. That's all from us. We're back on Friday, but we've also got the David Menusier special coming out on Tuesday. Please give that a listen because David Menusier blew me away. What a lovely, lovely man he is. I dare anyone to listen to that and not think that David Menusier is a fantastic trainer and fellow human being. That's all from us. Bye for now.